Hello and welcome back to the Can You Dig It podcast, where we dig down, dig deep, and dig into the process of self-discovery and personal growth. I'm here with Jessica Rebello from Unleash Potential Life Coaching. I'm Jordan Nacht from the Center for Alignment. We're bringing you 2+ decades of counseling and coaching experience into this exploration of the theory and, really most importantly, the application of subjects in mental health, emotional awareness, and, as I mentioned before, personal growth. Today's episode is titled The Toughness of Enoughness. Now, what the heck are we talking about today? What does that mean?
Do you want me to start on this one?
Oh man, please. I'm already thinking like, was my opening enough? Did I do enough? Was it good enough?
Oh, so judgmental. So judgmental.
I'm not really doing that. Maybe
I know. But I think that's part of it. Speaking of, I think judgment comes into being enough, right? And I think we are our own worst critics of what we feel is enough and being enough and what that looks like and what that feels like and what that tastes like, what that smells like, everything about that. And I think it's a really hard thing. It's a balancing act. And I think everyone could struggle with it, truly.
I think you're absolutely right. I've yet to meet somebody where there's always just a sense of enoughness that kind of exudes from them with every word, with every act, from every fiber of their being, right? We're always striving for more. There's always something to do, something I have to do. I mean, look at our society, look around you, there's this constant need to get to or rush to the next thing, as
to going.
Right. As opposed to like, no, this present moment right here, right now is, this is enough. I am enough. And I think that's what it all comes back to, the self, I am enough versus, are the things I'm doing enough? And that's the interplay of a lot of what we're going to talk about today.
Yeah. You said something too of like the present moment and being present and like just accepting the presence. Do you think people have a hard time with that more so than feeling enough, or do you feel like it's a combination of the two?
I think it goes hand in hand with the being of enough. That's what I would say. That the inability to accept and embrace the present moment and be fully present is a symptom of a lack of enoughness, or a not enoughness, as I call it.
So it's more so giving the self permission to just be, and that's being enough, right? Like without overanalyzing, without judging, without critiquing it, and just like leaving all the judgments aside and just being in that moment and saying like, you know what, like I'm enough just being here now.
Yeah.
And that's good.
Yeah. I mean, imagine how different life would be if we started every day, just choosing to believe that no matter what we do, even if we chose nothing, right? We acted like a total, 5-year-old throwing a temper tantrum, arms folded. No, I'm going to eat candy and do nothing all day. Like, imagine if the belief was, I am enough even if I do that. I am enough even if I fail. I am enough even if I succeed. No matter what I do, it doesn't matter what I do. Who I am is already enough. Again, I imagine sitting presently with oneself every morning and just really thinking about that, looking at that, embracing that, breathing that in, an affirmation of I am enough. For real though, not just saying the words and taking a deep breath, not just I am enough. But, but like really getting into like, I am enough. I am enough. As I am enough. And like really getting curious and opening up to that,
And I think there's a difference when you say I'm enough as like one, but then as I'm enough as I am, right? Like that one I think is so much more powerful, of like just being enough where you are in this exact moment of time.
Yeah.
I mean, I think just even how you said it to me, it just hit me even differently, just hearing it. You know what I mean? I could only imagine just like telling ourselves that on a daily basis in the morning. That would really, really make some huge improvements, I would assume.
Yeah, and it's funny because as I acted it out right here, right, the one that wasn't so powerful was just the words, "I am enough."
Yeah.
But when I really
Hmm.
embraced it and got into it, I love acting, right? I get right into character. The second I was in that mindful character, that fully present, fully enough character, as I am just kind of flowed from my lips. And
Interesting.
I don't think that would have flowed if this was something I didn't do in the mornings. I can't say I do it every day, but it's something I have utilized at times for sure. When I
Yeah.
feel, it becomes, unfortunately, it's not just a state of being and something I do every day. It's something I apply as a tool when I see fit to do so. Um, that's how I approach it and do it. That
Mm-hmm.
doesn't mean that's how everyone should do it, right? I think
Hmm.
ideally, if I'm stepping back, yeah, I should say this and do this every single day. Of
Yeah,
course,
I think everybody should. Yeah.
but am I enough even if I don't do it every day? That's, I use the word should there. That's a big one when it comes to enoughness. Should.
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
should be doing this. I should have done this. You know, as someone once said to me, stop shoulding all over yourself. You're making a mess, you know? Stop taking a big steaming pile of should everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think something, and at least from the clients that I've worked with, and even for myself, I think something that is really hard for a lot of people is this like this comparing thing, right? Like we are in a society that we just love to compare ourselves to others. It's either what someone has or what someone's doing or what someone looks like or what someone acts like, right? Like there's so many different components to comparing that feeling enough and like, of course, that's also self esteem and confidence related, right? Like just really feeling like you're enough.
Mhm.
It's crushing through some of those really hard barriers of not comparing and not judging. And you know what I mean? And that I think for some people, I think maybe they would even have to intertwine some of those things with like what you're recommending too, of like the morning mantra. You know what I mean?
Sure. Sure. Like fully accepting and embracing myself
Hmm.
outside of any comparison, outside of anything else or anyone else at this time.
Yeah.
It's looking inward,
Oh,
uh,
absolutely.
with blinders on, looking inward.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's
It's
embracing what you see. It's embracing what you feel. It's embracing the body cues that your body's telling you. Because our body is also going to be really uncomfortable with this in the beginning
hmm,
of trying this, right? Your body's going to be like, what are you doing? This is silly. Your body's going to have its own judgments with it. But
hmm.
it's trusting the process and trusting yourself and knowing over time, trying a new skill or a new technique with practice, it's going to become more comfortable.
So when you say the body, I want people to understand this fully because I know what you're talking about, right? I've looked into different, mindfulness techniques and approaches and mind body awareness, and that's
Hmm.
something I've read and learned about and studied. But to the average person, assume I'm an idiot. That shouldn't be too hard. Tell me, tell me what you mean by the body would be uncomfortable. What does that look like? Like
Hmm.
how does that look on the daily?
So I think so. Our bodies, they remember everything that we've gone through, positive and negative, right? So like that's the starting point. Our bodies remember everything. Our bodies witness every emotion we go through, every feeling, every judgment, every consequence. Our body is always there.
Hmm.
When we try something new, our body has a reaction to it, right? Our body is telling us like this feels really different or this feels weird. I'm uncomfortable, right? Our stomach might clench up, our hands might get sweaty, our cheeks might get red, our ears might ring, our nose might run, right? Like we all different, we have such different body reactions
Right.
to something new. When it comes to completely owning the self, right? And saying I'm enough as I am, our body's going to have something to say to that. Our body is going to be like, oh my God, my stomach, right? Or oh, I just got sweaty even saying that out loud, right? Like our body is going to say something. And it's reminding your body, like, you are safe. This is a safe place. This is different. It feels uncomfortable, and that's okay. It's giving yourself and really giving your body permission to be uncomfortable.
Hmm. And even when uncomfortable, I'm enough.
Yeah,
This is
absolutely.
normal. This is wonderful. This is acceptable. This is like, it's okay to be uncomfortable. It's
Hmm.
okay to have heart
Yeah.
palpitations. It's okay to have that pit in my stomach. All of these things
Hmm.
are all neutral things until I judge them to be something else or something further than that.
Correct.
Something like that. So we go back to the judgment, which was like the first word that came out of your mouth when I said, what the heck are we talking about today? I think judgment was one of the first words that came out. So
Yeah.
it's very interesting. It's funny when you say your body has a resistance to it. As you said that, what went through my head was, yeah, and your coach might have a resistance to it as well. Your coach may get uncomfortable if you start saying, I am enough as I am. And the reason I say that is, and you and I have talked a little bit about this when we talked about, just coming into this podcast, what it's going to look like, right? That balance, the interplay between, someone whose job is literally like goal achievement versus I am enough as I am, even without the goal achievement. And it makes me almost uncomfortable as a coach to think like, well, how does that apply? Like, do they lean on one another? Is it healthy to look at the doing the way we do? What do you think?
Well, I think it goes back to a seesaw, right? And the seesaw is never balanced, and it never can be balanced just because that's the way life works.
Right.
But it's a seesaw of saying, there's goals I want to achieve, and these are the goals that I want, right? Like I am labeling them, these are my goals, but it's also I'm enough as I am while achieving my goals. And if there's a period of time that I'm not working on anything in this moment, that's okay. You don't always have to be working on a goal. You don't always have to be striving to try this new tool or technique or whatever, right? Like just being is also completely acceptable and completely all right.
Interesting. It makes me think about like if we stripped away all of the doing or the need to do anything, and all that was left was the being of enoughness. I am enough. How differently a lot of us would approach the day or approach our tasks or approach the choices we make, something along those lines. Because there is this, I don't even think a lot of us are very aware of it in the moment. It's probably or I would say subconscious thought. The things we do, the choices we make, a lot of times, when they're avoidance based or laziness based or procrastination based, which all three of those words pretty much mean the same thing. They're all a representation of, fear or avoidance to some extent, a lot of the time, right? If I knew I was enough, if I knew really, truly deep down that I am enough as I am, then there's no need, there's no pressure to succeed. There's no pressure to accomplish. I can just come into these things with curiosity, with openness, with enjoyment. That's it. As opposed to like, oh, go ahead.
No, finish.
I say like, as opposed to coming into like, if I'm doing physical exercise today, right? I'm a runner. So a lot of times in my head is, okay, I have to run at least 4 miles today. There are times where it's really hot out. There are times I plantar fasciitis, so my feet really hurt. There are times where, I just decide to sprint and go faster than usual. So by mile 3.5, I've had my workout. My legs are done and I'm done. But in my head, there is this like, no, I had committed to doing 4 miles. It's not enough only doing 3. It's not enough. As opposed to, no, I am enough. And I am proud of myself for doing what I did today, for pushing myself, doing this there's just a greater sense of acceptance, enjoyment, appreciation, acceptance of all that I am doing, regardless of how much. It's not a quantity thing. It becomes a quality.
Agreed.
When I'm enough. That just came out. I like that. It goes from like a quantity to a quality thing when I am enough. Oh, I like that.
And I think when you're speaking quality of being enough, everything that I keep thinking about when you were speaking was like being our most true, authentic selves. Right? If we take away the shoulds and we take away, well, I'm supposed to do 4 miles and today I only did 3 miles. Therefore, like I failed because I only did 3 miles, right? Like if we take away that expectation, take away the shoulds, take away comparing, we would really be our most authentic being. Because if we're going into it saying like I am enough just the way I am, right? Then that's labeled, then that's there. Then everything we're doing it for the self.
Right. Right. There's not this external pursuit of comparison or, this external pursuit of like, okay, if I do this, then I'm enough, or I did enough today.
Exactly. Exactly.
Right. It comes from a different place.
Mhm. Mhm.
It doesn't
And
come
some
from how much, but how, period. Like how
Mhm.
I do it is everything. But the
Exactly.
process itself becomes the end goal.
Mhm. Mhm.
The means
And
become, go ahead.
I think with that, gratitude comes in, right? Of like appreciating the is. And I phrase it like that on purpose. And I phrase that with my clients a lot too. Of like, I am grateful for my being now and here. I am grateful for my ability to feel enough. I am grateful, right? Like we could all make a gratitude journal and we could list out why we're all like what we're grateful for. But when we're looking at it from this lens of like, I'm enough just the way I am and approaching life that way, there's gratitude within that.
Hmm. Well, it's the act itself is like an act of gratitude. You don't even have to say the word,
Hmm. Hmm.
like you're
Yeah,
appreciating yourself as you are without using the words thank you or gratitude or appreciation.
exactly. Absolutely.
It's just kind of aligning with it from your being.
Hmm.
So that's all well and good, right? And we've come to
Hmm.
a really good point in this podcast where we've looked at like the theory of enoughness.
Hmm.
What do you say to the client who comes in and says, "Oh, I know I'm enough, but yeah, I mean, I'm not happy," or "I know I'm enough, but I mean, there are certainly these things like I need to be doing that I'm not doing." Like, where does that balance come in? Like the word alignment comes into play.
Hmm.
I think about something like, well, if you know you're enough, and we really look at these actions and, from your most authentic self, right? You've told me you're a writer, you've told me you're a server, you love to serve people, yet your days are not aligned with these actions. Uh, are you enough? Are you coming from enoughness? Because if
So you're
you
saying
were
more of
enough,
the action. Where's the action that goes
right,
with the enoughness?
right. So, is that worth? I don't want to say, is it worth it? Is it detrimental to our conversation? Right? Is it anathema to our conversation? Well, that was a good word.
That
To
was a good word.
like to look at the doing and the action and how it aligns with who I am as a person who is enough as I am.
Hmm. So
Does that
you're
make sense?
saying it does, but let me just clarify.
Yeah.
The action is part of the recipe for enoughness, or at least for the alignment of the enoughness.
I would say that in the beginning, you have to be very conscious of it and consciously choose to align your action with the enoughness for sure. If you're
Okay.
not if you're not already there and grounded in it. But I think eventually it just becomes an unintended side effect of being enough.
Okay.
Does that make
Uh,
sense when I say that?
It does.
Okay.
Now, is there a way for people to self-sabotage this? Do you think? Right? Like you gave the example, like, well, what if I believe I'm enough, but I'm not happy? Or what if I believe I'm enough, but I'm not doing X, Y, and Z, which I think I should be doing?
Hmm.
Like, would we say that self-judgment then is the self-sabotage of it?
I think it very well could be. And I hate to say it, I think a lot of us are programmed to, whether it's from childhood conditioning or internalized beliefs after a traumatic event, there's so many different things that condition our belief systems and our patterns. But I think unfortunately there's a lot of us where we can wake up in the morning and do the enoughness affirmations. We can
Hmm.
align ourselves with what the enough self,
Hmm.
would be acting like and how that person would be speaking. But yet at the end of the day, I'm uncomfortable and I don't feel right and something doesn't feel right, or it's just I still have that feeling in my gut, or you're right, as you said before, the body is
Hmm.
telling you otherwise.
Hmm.
I think people identify with the discomfort and then say, I'm not happy or it isn't working.
Correct. I'm so happy you said that. Correct. Because we've associated discomfort as a negative. Well, if
Mm,
something's making you uncomfortable or there's some form of discomfort that's coming up for you, then it's bad and you should not do it.
right.
Right. I think that's another programming that we all face. And it's like, actually, no, I want you to feel uncomfortable.
Hmm,
I want there to be discomfort. I don't want you to sit comfortable every day because then nothing's changing, nothing's moving. Right. We need discomfort really, I think, for the toughness of enoughness. I think it's
hmm.
kind of a huge component of it.
Interesting. So my being enough as I am, as we said before, that person is able to be uncomfortable, but still know beyond the discomfort that my identity is one of enoughness.
Hmm,
I don't identify with these feelings. These are just feelings. These are just passing sensations. They will
exactly.
come, they will go. Tomorrow I will wake up and feel completely different.
Hmm.
Or tomorrow I may wake up and not feel completely different. But regardless of my feeling, my knowing, my belief deep down is, I am enough. And that may
Hmm.
be something that I've had to cultivate. It might be,
Hmm. Hmm.
if it's not something I've always believed.
Correct. No. As far as tools, what other tools do you think
Mm,
we would recommend people, right? Because like we're talking about like cultivating this like morning mantra
mhm,
and like totally buying into this, which is fantastic. And
mhm.
I mentioned somewhere through along the podcast of like a gratitude journal, which is also something that I believe could help this. What else do you think could help people start leaning in this direction? Right? Like we could say like don't compare yourself to others. Be kind to yourself, right? Like yeah, those sound great. We all know them. But like what are we really recommending?
Hmm. That's very well said. It's very well said. I think that morning mantra, like again, a daily, I'm very big on the word fitness, right? If your enoughness muscle is not in good shape, which let's be real,
It's not.
95 to 99% of Americans are not.
No.
Um, that muscle is probably morbidly obese in most people, if we're being honest. we want, we want to establish some kind of fitness regimen. So if they did, like, to me, like, the question is, what are some exercises? What are some fitness
Mhm.
techniques we can do? So we talked about gratitude journal. We talked about affirmations, right? I'm very big on self-talk, which is different from affirmations. Affirmations are very meditative, very quiet, very personal thing. Consciously chosen self-talk is literally like I externalize myself and will have a conversation with myself about something, whatever
Mhm.
it might be. And usually I do it in the privacy of, my own company, so I don't look crazy. But there
Neighbors
are
next to you
times,
like, just this crazy guy.
right, right. But for what it's worth, there are times I purposely do it in front of others because I want them to see that it's healthy and necessary. How
Mhm.
we speak when we talk to ourselves is so utterly important.
Mhm.
There's also, I'm very, very big on, if you can't imagine it, it will never be.
Hmm.
So I'm just taking time to imagine it, sitting and doing some kind of visualization or conscious dream where you're the eye of the storm.
I love that.
Imagine, right? You are enough. You are grounded. You are good. Everything around you may be in chaos. So I would imagine this beautiful, beautiful setting. For me, it would be in the middle of a wide open field surrounded by mountains with a
Hmm.
huge, huge storm and lightning and dark clouds coming over the mountain. And I would see myself rooted in the ground, really like my feet kind of turn into roots, and I am in the ground and I am standing strong. And that storm forms kind of around me and starts circling me. And you can see the wind, you can see the leaves rustling, you can see everything around me going absolutely chaotic. Maybe there's tornadoes, maybe there's a house in the distance whose roof got ripped off, maybe, and I'm picturing all of this, but I am just breathing calmly and deeply and feeling myself grounded in the center of that storm. For me, groundedness is very, very deeply connected to enoughness. So I
Hmm.
would visualize something like that. I've done that for myself in times of serious, serious discontent and storms in my life. That's another one. Visualization is
Hmm. Huge.
huge. Is there anything
I
coming to
love that.
mind for you that you can help me out here?
Yeah. So
Or
I think
or-
I'm like a journal queen. right? Like I love journaling and I love recommending journaling to people, and how I recommend it. And I don't think I've done this on the podcast yet, but like I'm not the girl that's like, dear diary, Tuesday was rough and this is why, right? Like we're not doing that. It's more of like bullets. Like I need you to bullet point it. And I don't care about grammar. I don't care about spelling. I don't care how it comes out, but it's more of like a venting journal. Like get the thoughts out of your head and put them somewhere. So for toughness of enoughness and connecting it to this, it's really like get the judgments out, get the comparisons out, get them out of you, right? Because oftentimes, if our thought doesn't go somewhere, we have the ability to make it grow into something else, right? And then it morphs and grows, and then it's all of a sudden a totally different thought. It's like, oh my God, how did we get here? Right? This is too much.
Right.
So I call it a bullet journal. Just bullet it down and spend no more than 3 to 4 minutes on it. And then that's it. Put it down, right? Like you don't need to be sitting there journaling for 2 hours of your night. Like that's past healthy. And do that when you feel like you have a judgment coming up, or when you have a criticism coming up, or a should coming up, right? Like just get it out and get it away, and then proceed forward.
Right. I've described this to clients as recently as yesterday, that like all these thoughts, these beliefs, these shoulds, these not enoughness, these judgments, these critiques, they all have a little energy. And imagine this energy simmering or spinning inside of you. And you want to get it out of you. You need to express that energy. You want to like press out, press, get the pressure out of you, get the energy out of you, express it, write it down. Another way of saying that is the truth will set you free.
Yes.
Get that truth, or what you believe that truth to be, out of you. The truth is this is a thought inside of me.
Correct.
Right? It's not my personal truth and I identify with it. It's just a truth. It's a fleeting truth of this thought is inside of me right now. So let me get it out. Right? And what are the truths I want to keep inside of me? You can add that to your journal too. I have a client who separated his journal. This was actually a mentor of mine that taught me this, into like the front of the journal is all everything I am and everything I choose to be. And the back of the journal, and there's like 2 pages folded over, so you know where the journal splits. And then the back half of the journal is everything I want to get out of me. Right. So the beginning is the seeds I want to cultivate, and the back is the seeds I want to rip out, or the roots I want to rip out.
I like that. I really like that.
That's a good one too. So good. And I that's, our primary reason for even starting this podcast was give people tools. Give people tools, so those are some big ones.
Yeah.
Those are some big ones for sure for us, things that I've seen work. We have mentioned it, we have talked about it. Another one, maybe we have said it already in this, but mindfulness meditation. It's legitimately the act of enoughness. Mindfulness meditation is CrossFit enoughness. It's the CrossFit for enoughness. Right? That's like the best way to put it. You will work.
Best analogy.
That is a core workout. It is the hardest thing you will do. Plenty of people can go to the gym and sit on a bench and lift weights. Not everyone's going to do CrossFit.
No.
Right? But CrossFit, you rip up, you get ripped. Every muscle in your body gets ripped when you do CrossFit for a reason, because it's so core. And I would say mindfulness meditation, download the Calm app, download Headspace. And start doing these, doing some. You could go on YouTube and look up.
I was just going to say, I like YouTube.
You don't need to spend money.
The YouTube ones work well for me too. I enjoy the YouTube ones, and like the guided ones, they just have so many different options and stuff like that, which I like. Yeah,
totally. So those are our recommendations for today, for sure.
Yeah.
I think, we're at about the 30-minute mark. We're trying to keep these around 30 minutes. Is there anything else that comes to mind that we did not touch upon? I think you had a podcast or something that you wanted to.
Yeah. So, Love, Happiness, and Success podcast. It's been around for a few years. It is my go-to podcast. They talk about so many different topics, so it's not one topic specific. So you might have to like peruse around to pick one that resonates with what you're going through. But it's a few women who run it, and they speak so honestly. They speak pretty point on about the issues at hand, and in a really nice way that just makes you like register it different. Like, oh, I didn't think of it from that perspective or philosophy or what have you. So I would recommend that. It's a really good listen. And their episodes are not super long either. Like they're kind of like yours and mine. You know what I mean? It's pretty relative to fitting it into schedule.
Gotcha. That's great. That's great. Yeah, and as we slow down, and as you say that, it made me think of, another really important piece. As much as we talk about this being, your enoughness is more a reflection of your relationship with yourself than anything else in the world.
Mhm.
It never hurts to get external reinforcement and validation on the enoughness either. So where I'm going with that is, find a community that sees you as enough.
Mhm.
You're constantly around your family and all they're ever doing is critiquing you. You probably need to surround yourself. Well, number one, you should express to them what you're looking for, and not angrily, not meanly, just calmly and honestly ask that they build you up and see you as enough as you are. You
Mhm.
can certainly do that, but finding a community that sees you as enough. Jessica and I are starting these groups called Chain Breakers, and they're starting next year, January 4th. Every Tuesday night at 6 p.m. is, that's our base. And from there, we're going to branch out into other groups as they evolve naturally. But I mean, one of the core tenets of these groups is you are always enough in this group.
Mhm.
Just showing up, you are enough. And you may have totally skipped out on your commitments for the week. You may feel like you failed. You may objectively look at, that your goals were not reached. Whatever it might be, in that group, you're enough. And being able to talk about all the doing while knowing that everyone around you's state of being is seeing your being as enough. It's a powerful thing to surround yourself with.
Mhm.
It's a really
Love it.
powerful thing to surround yourself with. So, I highly recommend, if it's not our community that you join, which you can always reach out to us. You can email me anytime, Jordan M Nacht, Jordan M Nacht at gmail.com. If you want to come to the groups, but find another group. There are meetups. There's I'm sure there's things on Groupon. I'm sure there's local religious communities that have wonderful groups. There's
Mhm.
YMCA's, there's support groups, there's addiction centers,
A ton of
AA.
resources.
There's so many resources you guys can find if you choose to. It
Mhm.
is there. It
Mhm.
is there if you're willing and you're ready. So I think that's going to wrap us up for today. What do you think?
I agree.
Oh, that felt great. That felt really great. I feel like that episode was enough. I really
I
do.
agree. We are enough. You're enough. I'm enough.
Oh, you're enough.
Just the way we are.
Oh, wow, that's so wonderful to think about. Oh my God. All right. Well, before this goes any further, because there's so many things I have to do to feel enough by the end of the day. Oh my goodness. Um, we will see you guys next time. Thank you so much for tuning in. As always, we believe in all of you. Anyone listening to this, you are enough. I promise you're enough, whether you see it or not. And if you need to listen to this podcast to get back to
Over
it,
and over again.
then so be it. Right? For what it's worth, I will be listening to this podcast while I run, because I'll be judging myself for going too slow or not going far enough or breathing
No,
too quickly.
none of
It's
that.
none of that, but I am human and it does happen sometimes. So recenter.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Take care. We'll see you next time.